Christmas may be over, but we bet the violent echoes of David Harbour's holiday flick will stay with us for a long time, especially when we watch the films it's inspired from. Man trying to save a loved one from a kidnapping attempt? Die Hard. Crazy booby traps for the bad guys? Home Alone. A super popular franchise inspires even the cinematography. Want to know which one? Stay tuned and you'll find out. First, influences from the 80s. Films back in the day were bombshells that were usually released during Christmas. Like, we get it. That's when most of your audiences are available and ready to watch your movies. But to release such violent genres during the most festive time of the year definitely was a meta move, and it gave Patrick Casey and Josh Miller some ideas, because not only did they make a super violent film to release right around Christmas, but they also brought with us the world's angriest Santa, who doesn't shy away from pulling his punches at all. The intense scenes are an homage to some of the most popular violent Christmas movies that were super popular back in the 80s. Next up, an inspiration from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Well, even the casting of the film is inspired by Christmas movies of late. We're talking about Beverly D'Angelo, who returned to a holiday classic after ages, with her first Christmas movie being Christmas Vacation. In 3 of those movies, she plays the family matriarch Ellen Griswold. So her return as Gertrude Lightstone in this film was a fun surprise for everyone who was a fan of hers back in the day, and the theme of the films matches too. The first movie in her old franchise, Christmas Vacation, is set around the same season when her family visits her, but the whole thing goes awry despite all their best efforts, including the electrocution of their family cat. Whoops. But do you know that the same electrocution scene happens in Violent Night too? Yep, only this time, it's Santa who delivers this punishment, and a bad guy who receives it, not the family cat, thankfully. After that, all of Mr. Scrooge's references. Like every artist needs their muse, every Santa needs Scrooge. This brings us to his character in this movie, where names are a big part of the Christmas galore, with Mr. Scrooge, the mercenary leader, being the biggest one of them all. John Leguizamo's portrayal of a narcissistic, grumpy, and Christmas-hating character pays tribute to the many films in which he has appeared. As expected, Leguizamo fully embraces the role and does the character justice. He has never disappointed us before, and we don't expect him to start now. One popular holiday comedy that has influenced pop culture is Scrooged, a modern retelling of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. The protagonist, a self-absorbed TV station president, initially holds a cynical view of Christmas. This is exemplified when he watches The Night the Reindeer Died, a film within the film that depicts Santa using humorous weapons to defend his workshop against invaders. Despite his initial misgivings, the main character ultimately learns the true meaning of the holiday season. Violent Night's action sequences take a lot of influence from those scenes too. Also, we have the John Wick connection. Wait, Violent Night has John Wick references? How? Where? Was it a Keanu Reeves cameo that you may have missed? Or did the bad guys kill a puppy that Santa had to avenge? Please calm down, everyone. This is a Christmas movie, so it's not appropriate to include disturbing elements such as dying pets. But there are John Wick references for sure, with the first common occurrence being that the production companies of both movies are the same. 87 North is the name, and both films have used the same cinematography style to capture the action. Yep, this is what we were talking about earlier. According to the director, Tommy Wirkola, Wick's franchise inspired the wide-angle photography in the action series. He also mentioned his love for the 80s and 90s action movies, and how he's tried to include some of that in this film. While we're on this subject, you wouldn't believe the director's discussion with David Harbour. Well, once John Wick's name was involved, both guys got to discussing whether Santa could beat the legendary action hero played by Reeves. According to David, Santa would definitely win in a fight, but we wouldn't know until we watched it. So, can the producers make the Keanu cameo happen? Hey, we're not asking for a lot. They do belong in the same universe in one way or the other. Let's not forget the villain names based on Christmas films. What's Christmas without its candy? The film creators had the same thought. So, while they couldn't really focus on a big holiday spread of sweets and classic holiday food, they brought in a more creative way to bring them on screen. And that's through the villain names. Yep, each criminal in the movie takes up a classic character in the film, most of which are references to Christmas films. We've already talked about Scrooge, right? So we won't bring him back here. But aside from him, there's Krampus, played by Brendan Fletcher, which is the name of a 2015 holiday horror comedy inspired by Christmas folklore. There are others too, including Frosty, played by Can Aiden, whose name is inspired by the Christmas special Frosty the Snowman. Then we have Tinsel, played by Fong Yang, and Sugar Plum by Stephanie C. The best part is that all of these characters hate Christmas with a vendetta, which is why it's so much fun to watch these familiar names take a new shape and ruin the holidays for everyone around them. Moving on, the elf influence. Christmas magic is a high no Santa can get off from, and while in Elf that high was shown in decline, in Violent Night it brings Santa back to the world of the living. Confused? Let us explain. In Elf, Santa's sleigh can't fly anymore without a powerful engine because people have stopped believing in him, reducing his powers and leaving him needing such human atrocities like engines and such to fly. That's called Christmas magic if you don't know yet, which makes Santa and his entire world more powerful enough to bring you gifts during the season. Or you know, that's what they tell kids. In Violent Night, the same magic comes to play when Santa is badly wounded and about to die but when each family member admits they believe in his existence, he comes back to life, making all well again in the world of snow and candy. Coming up, all Home Alone influence sequences. One simply cannot have a Christmas movie without a Home Alone reference. No, really, Chris Columbus really did a number with this 90s classic, which has become an iconic Christmas movie that's not only watched, but also replicated by filmmakers in their respective films. In the movie Home Alone, one of the film's most iconic booby traps was used to teach the antagonists, known as Scrooge's Army, a memorable lesson. Just like Kevin surrounds himself with booby traps to save himself from the bad guys, Trudy Lightstone does the same as she hides from the thieves in her house and surrounds herself with some pretty elaborate traps in the process. Of course, Kevin's enemies had to face him alone. Trudy had help in that department, with Santa being by her side. So she didn't really need the booby traps, as she already had a savior to do the dirty work for her. Then, a pretty close Die Hard 2 reference. No matter how much you hate it, Die Hard 2 is probably the best John McClane sequel to exist. Everything after that just fizzled and died. So to pay their respects to this sequel, the movie goes ahead and replicates a pretty badass scene, only without McClane anywhere in sight. So you guys remember how in Die Hard 2, John Amos double-crosses Major Grant to carry out his evil plans? The whole extraction plot also catches the Die Hard 2 characters by surprise. Well, the same happens here. In this movie, the Lighthouse family mentions their extraction team one too many times. You already have a hunch that something is wrong with that particular plot, but when you finally meet the team's members, including Commander Thorpe, you find out that he's been working with Scrooge all along, making it a super similar plot to Die Hard 2, where Colonel William Stewart is in cahoots with Major Grant. If you notice, they're even wearing similar costumes. Another reference to the movie is when Santa kills one of the bad guys in the most gruesome way, by using an icicle. In Die Hard 2, one of the members is killed by stabbing a bad guy in the eye with an icicle. The same happens here as one of the villains falls from a window and gets impaled with ice. Well, the creators love Die Hard too much. But hey, that's exactly the whole point of the movie. Let us tell you why. Finally, all Die Hard influences. Did you know that when the writers of this film pitched it to the production house, they named it Die Hard Santa? That's right. This movie is based on the classic Bruce Willis film and was sketched out by Miller and Casey back in high school, specifically in one of their detentions. The movie's plot was actually a play-by-play copy of Die Hard, where the writers intended to have Santa saving the day instead of John McClane. And guess what? The producers loved it because now we have Violent Night, a show with all Die Hard influences without Nakatomi Plaza. Instead, we're in a snowscape full of Christmas magic to greet us. Even the overall plot is an homage to the classic, with Trudy helping Santa with a microphone from the attic, just like Holly helped John in Die Hard. We're probably only missing a yippee-ki-yay from Santa. Otherwise, every influence from the movie is pretty clearly visible across Violent Night. Even this, Santa seems to be an angry and cynical version of himself, much like Bruce's character in the classic tale. It's hard to find two characters more similar than that.
Wait, am I doing that correct?
And that's a wrap for this video. What other holiday-themed films does Violent Night remind you of? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you at the next one.